Hello everyone, here are the latest market news on August the 1st, 2019. London Stock Exchange buys Refinitiv for $27 billion. London Stock Exchange Group Plc said on Thursday it had agreed to buy financial information firm Refinitiv in a $27 billion deal that will transform the British company into a market data and analyst giant. The transaction is expected to complete in the second half of 2020. The exchange confirmed it will issue shares as part of the transaction, and holders of Refinitiv will receive a stake of approximately 37%. Refinitiv will get £198.3 million if merger clearances are not obtained. LSE said that the deal is expected to produce £350 million in annual savings within 5 years. U.S. Fed cuts rates for the first time in a decade. The U.S. Federal Reserve cut interest rates for the first time in more than a decade. The central bank also signaled that it's ready to provide more support as growth slows in the world's largest economy. The Fed cut its key benchmark interest rate by a quarter of percentage point to a range of 2% to 2.25% in the first reduction in borrowing costs since financial crisis a decade ago. Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, said the weak global growth and the U.S.-China trade war interfered the world economy and had an impact on growth in America, despite the U.S. labor market remaining strong with the lowest unemployment rate since the late 1960s. Shares slide in Asia, dollar rises on Fed move. Asian shares declined to 6-week lows on Thursday, while the dollar jumped to 2-year highs as the U.S. Federal Reserve rattled markets by signaling that its first rate cut in more than a decade was not the start of a lengthy easing cycle. The Eurostoxx 50 futures lost 0.5%, while futures for Germany's DAX and London's FTSE fell 0.3% each, and France's CAC 40 decreased 0.2%. In the United States, E-minis for the S&P 500 were 0.15% lower. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan tumbled 0.8%, extending losses for a fifth day to the lowest since mid-June. Meantime, Japan's Nikkei rebounded and were slightly higher. The dollar index finished July 2.5% higher and rose 0.4% at 98.899, according to last data. Against the Japanese yen, the dollar crossed the mark in 109, marked the highest since end May. Meanwhile, yields on 10-year treasuries in the U.S. climbed as high as 2.053% in early Asian hours from a U.S. close of 2.007%. Oil falls amid disappointing end of trade talks. Oil prices slid on Thursday, marking a drop for the first time in 6 days after Sino-US talks ended without apparent progress toward resolving a bitter trade dispute. Negotiators from both sides wrapped up a round of trade talks on Wednesday without visible signs of progress and put out their next meeting until September. Brent crude futures declined 68 cents or 1% to $64.37 a barrel, having fallen more than $1 earlier in the session. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 72 cents or 1.2% at $57.86 a barrel, also having dropped more than $1 earlier. The drops came despite a bigger-than-expected decline in inventories in the U.S. and a drop in crude production among OPEC members.